in your first answer, Hassan, that this story might just jolt Arsenal into action, and whether so far this summer they've played quite a clever game in it not being really clear who the primary striking target is. But if it's Gyokeres, they might need to get a move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thus far, they've been playing Benjamin Sesko and obviously Gyokeres. They've not really signalled who their front runner is. Internally, they'll be aware, but in terms of the two clubs, the way they've dealt with them is to at least pretend that they're equally interested in both. But with this Liverpool interest, as you say, it might now jolt them into action. From what I understand, Mikel Arteta has said he wants a striker before the pre-season tour, which I think Arsenal fly out July 19th to Asia for their pre-season tour of Singapore and Hong Kong. So in the next couple of weeks, it's going to be absolute crunch time. What is for sure is that Arsenal are definitely going to bring a striker in this window. So it's just a matter of when, not if. And there'll surely be now a few more twists and turns, especially if this interest from Liverpool does materialise and does suddenly start to spiral. Because with the position Liverpool are in, no player is going to just turn their nose at such a side. Anything could happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you're being hypercritical, Jack, some people will say, well, why didn't you get the striker first? You're closing in on Christian Norgaard. Zubimendi has been in the pipeline for a long time. Why not sort out the striker? But you would like to think that a recruitment team like Arsenal's can do more than one thing at once. For the price tag and with an expectation that Thomas Partey is about to go, is Christian Norgaard a smart bit of business?
I think he's a perfectly smart signing, but you make the right point that football fans are very fickle in terms of optically, and it is something that, a lot of clubs consider. If they can get a small deal over the line, an easy deal right at the start of the season, some sporting directors and owners and managers even will think, I can't have that being my first signing of the summer. Fans will absolutely kill me for it. It's almost an embarrassing thing. And I'm not saying Norgaard is that. He's a very well-established Premier League player. Arteta wants more quality in terms of the depth he has in his squad. He's felt it's been too thin, too light on quality coming off the bench this season, and Norgaard will address that even if Thomas Partey goes. But I think, this business with Arsenal of Berta wanting to spin many plates, keep people guessing, keep people on their toes, we'll only be able to judge that at the end of the summer. It could make him look a genius when they get everything they want, they hit all the right targets, they've got 5 or 6 new players and start the season in a really strong place. If any of them go slightly wrong, then you're going to look incredibly foolish when it's been absolutely evident what Arsenal have needed all along. Arsenal fans would have wanted a striker in the day after the season ended and they finished second again, because Arteta has done incredibly well. But now for him, for them, it's all about taking that final step and winning the Premier League title again. A manager will want a striker in as early as possible to work with him for as long as possible. Such a crucial position, such a crucial signing. So Norgaard is a good signing. He's a smart signing. You'd be a bit worried for Brentford. It's not the sexiest thing that will get Arsenal fans very excited at the moment.
Well, Christian Norgaard will be disappointed, Jack, that you don't think he's particularly sexy, but I'll let you tell him that whenever he pitches up at the Emirates. Just from shall we, and that back page of the Sun, Scandi drama slot ready to join Gyokeres fight as Toon plot record Isak wage deal, that it may just prove too difficult for Premier League champions Liverpool to lure Alexander Isak away from Newcastle this summer, so Viktor Gyokeres might be in their sights. Ihsan, already Jeremy Frimpong is in, Florian Wirtz is in. It looks as though Milos Kerkez will be added to that list, and maybe Liverpool aren't finished at 3.
Yeah, well, from an Arsenal perspective, they'll be really worried to hear about this news. Already, they've got this striker situation where they obviously, as everyone pretty much is known for over a year now, they badly need a striker. And now the news that Gyokeres is potentially being chased by Liverpool will be a real concern for them. And as you say, with the signing of Wirtz, Frimpong and Kerkez expected to join the Reds as well, it's a phenomenal start to the window by Liverpool, and it just shows you their intent ahead of next season. Just weeks after winning the title, they're already recalibrating a formidable squad as it is already. So very, very worrying signs for the rest of the league. From a Liverpool perspective, it's a very strong start indeed.
What about Alexander Isak, Jack? Did it always feel to you that the moment Newcastle reached the Champions League that it was going to be very difficult for any club to get Isak out of Newcastle this summer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's absolutely adored there. They're becoming increasingly confident in terms of their PSR position. Newcastle, since they moved, further in under the Saudi ownership, they're getting a bit more flexibility to go out and spend some more money. And the most important money they can spend is tying down players like Alexander Isak, Bruno Gyokeres, Sandro Tonali, giving them the packages that make them happy at Newcastle to ensure they can sustain what they're doing. They absolutely need to sign some people, but it's going to be a much more attractive club to come and play for with someone like Alexander Isak. And for him, he's happy, he's settled, he's obviously playing incredibly well. And to be able to do that at Newcastle in the Champions League will be a big boost. He obviously would have been a fantastic signing, but Newcastle, with the Champions League, are in a very strong position, and having won the EFL Cup as well, they're in a very strong position to keep him happy, ask for huge amounts of money to even consider it. And with PSR being such a big thing across the league now, there aren't many clubs that can afford to meet those asking prices.
Well, PSR is never far away, Hassan. And just on a slightly wider point, I mean, it does seem the flaw with it that a club that have had success on the pitch like Newcastle, who have owners that are prepared to back them, should really ever be in a position where they might have to consider selling someone like Isak to comply with those rules, doesn't it? That is, which is, I think, the common argument from clubs like Newcastle and Aston Villa, that it's stopping them competing with the big boys on a regular basis.
For sure, it's a difficult one, and obviously with the Club World Cup as well, with the fees that are going to be earned from just the matches being played there, and if you win the tournament, probably I think over £100 million that you could possibly net overall. With PSI, it's such a minefield, and in some ways it can seem unfair. The balance, it doesn't seem to be it doesn't cause a level playing field across all the teams in the league. And you can only imagine a team low down the table how much of a frustration that is when you see a much bigger team able to splurge money despite having already spent so much. So you can totally understand the frustrations there, and it is a complex issue.
Just on Gyokeres then, as a player, Jack, do you think the great thing about Alexander Isak is he's proven it in the Premier League, hasn't it? And that some of the other strikers that are being banded around, particularly with Arsenal, who we'll get to in just a moment, but Gyokeres and Sesko, that is the big question mark, isn't it? Can they do it in the Premier League?
Absolutely. It's the biggest question mark we always have about strikers now. They're obviously the most expensive position for a club to go and invest in. They're the ones that either hit the ground running and pay off immediately. They're judged so quickly now. You look at someone like Nicholas Jackson at Chelsea, I think he scored 15 goals in his first season, which isn't a bad return, really. And fans already want more. They want something else. And that isn't seen as quite good enough. And I think Gyokeres is an interesting one. You go back to before the January window, after he was scoring freely in the Champions League group stage, and it felt like it was a nailed on that somebody would have that wrapped up before the end of the season. And there just seems to be, we're obviously not very far into the summer, but it feels like that was something that would have been done by now. You wonder whether there are question marks over his record, the level he's done it at. He's been in the Championship with Coventry and then in the Portuguese division, which, a lot of players have been a success coming over from there, but it just doesn't compare to the Premier League in terms of the level that they're going to be facing, that Gyokeres will be facing in the Premier League. So I think clubs are maybe having some reservations over whether he's worth the fee. There seems to be a fair bit of haggling over whether they're going to get the bargain deal that it looked like earlier in the year. So I think there'll be a lot of consideration and a fair bit of waiting before we see Gyokeres move.
Arsenal have agreed a deal with Brentford to sign midfielder Christian Norgaard. Sources have indicated the Gunners have been discussing a fee worth in the region of an initial $10 million, with a possible $5 million in performance-related add-ons. The move for Norgaard comes just a week before Thomas Partey's Arsenal contract expires. Ghana international Partey, 32, has been in talks over a new deal to stay at Emirates Stadium, but no agreement has been reached. BBC Sport understands Sevilla's French midfielder Lucien Agoum, 23, also featured prominently on Arsenal's list of potential targets to replace Partey. Crucially, however, it is understood manager Mikel Arteta identified Norgaard as the midfielder he wanted because he preferred a Premier League-ready player. Club-to-club discussions over the Denmark international have accelerated in the last 24 hours and a deal is now in place. The 31-year-old, who joined Brentford from Fiorentina in 2019, will now undergo a medical before completing his move. Norgaard wasn't a long-term Arsenal target, but entered the club's radar as they sought experience in midfield ahead of Partey's potential departure. Norgaard became a key player for the Bees and captain under Thomas Frank, who left to become manager of Tottenham earlier in June. Arsenal are also set to complete the signing of Chelsea goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga this week by paying his €5 million release clause and are close to finalising the €51 million signing of Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubimendi.